on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say fuck a lot. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey, Dylan.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
That is remarkable.
It is remarkable. It's a beautiful day here in the WNC.
Western North Carolina is absolutely beautiful today. Blue skies, green mountains.
Low humidity, a nice breeze.
Oh, my gosh. A nice break from the humidity.
Oh, my gosh.
I took Rufus on a walk earlier, and it was very hot out, but it was not as suffocating as it's been because, oh, my gosh, the humidity's just been terrible the last few weeks.
I know why people are piling into our area because we really do have kind of a microclimate. It's all its own, you know. And
we got some shade trees.
we do got some shade trees over there. But we'll be talking about, oh, my gosh, it's so hot. It'll be like 82 or 5 degrees. And, you know, we're dying up here. We're like, oh, my God, we're baking. And then we have some friends in like Texas and Nebraska and stuff like that. And they're just like, oh, yeah, you're lucky, dude. It's
Heck,
like
my best friend lives in Raleigh, and even she's like,
Yes.
You have no idea what heat is.
105 degrees is what they're hitting some parts of Texas at points. And
Heat wave, baby.
And 100% humidity all the time in some other areas.
It's a heat wave, and Dylan's not even there.
And if I was there, I would be so
Hot.
sticky.
Huh? Dylan's obsessed with things being sticky. Before we get started, Dylan, let's give a big shout out to our newest patrons who are so generously subscribing over at patreon.com/Mountain Murders Podcast. They are truly helping to keep the lights on here in the Mountain Murders studio. And that is Kathleen and Scott. Kathleen has topped out at our highest tier, and Scott is right behind her in the second highest tier. So thank you so much. They are going to be able to access ad-free content, all the bonus material we have there. Invite to our Discord chat, which is really more like our Discord fam.
Definitely.
All right? We're like all besties over there. They get to join in on all the fun. Dylan, it has been a wild couple of weeks in true crime.
It has been.
So before we get started, something that I would like to talk about, just because it's such a strange story and I don't know what's exactly happening there.
I think I know what you're talking about.
What's her name? Carly Russell?
I think so.
What is happening with this alleged kidnapping? Dylan, you know a little bit about it, but I have all the details.
Yeah, well, I think people trust your information more so than they do mine.
Okay. Well, Carly Russell lives in Hoover, Alabama, and she's a nursing student who was allegedly abducted. She disappeared, we'll say, for 49 hours on July 13th of this year. She appeared at her parents' house, again, 49 hours later, so about 2 days later on July 15th, and questions have been raised as to whether an abduction actually occurred. The case, the disappearance, went viral on TikTok and other social media platforms, has gained a lot of attention, but there has been some strange details released in the 25-year-old's disappearance. After calling 911, claiming that she was driving, down a highway and reported seeing a toddler wandering on the side of the road, she claims she was abducted by a man and a woman. She described him as a male with red hair and a bald spot. They took her in like a tractor trailer truck to a location.
Oh, my God. It's like that Kurt Russell movie. When they stole his wife, Breakdown.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, my God.
But 2 days before she went missing, police were able to find some internet searches where Russell used her cell phone to search whether you have to pay for an Amber Alert. She also searched for information about a bus station in Birmingham, which is about 10 miles from her hometown of Hoover. She searched for one-way bus tickets from Birmingham to Nashville. She also searched for the movie Taken and how to take money from a register without being caught on the day she vanished.
Well, look, I mean, we search weird stuff. Everybody searches stuff. But this, I must admit, this is an odd cache of searches directly before you allegedly are
I'm
kidnapped. or
telling
abducted.
you, if somebody went through my search history, they would be like, this woman needs to be locked away.
Well, no, it's,
Because I do so much true crime research
Right.
and I look up, but I'm telling you, if somebody didn't know these things and they just looked through my search history, they would be like, what is wrong with this woman?
see, this actually, you played the groundwork that you could search the craziest shit about, like how to cut a really big head off of a body, things like that. If you were looking to do something to me, obviously, how can a short woman move a fat guy? You know, these types of searches. How long will a fat guy before he stinks when he expires? These are very important
Well,
information.
I don't need to look up how to move a body. I know how.
But see, my point is, you could just be like, I'm a true crime podcaster.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, you're
Well,
covered.
investigators were also able to use cell phone records to determine that Russell had traveled about 600 yards along the highway as she spoke to a 911 operator. And they just find it hard to believe that a toddler, barefoot, maybe anywhere from 2 to 4 years old, is going to travel the length of 6 football fields without getting in the roadway, without crying. It's just, investigators were having a hard time understanding it all.
So here's the thing. In an instance like this, because there's been instances, toddlers on the roadway, whatever, you're getting a bunch of calls. You're not getting just Carly calling saying, hey, you're getting a lot of people. That catches people's eyes. And, okay, so if you do pull up behind a toddler walking next to a major road, what would be your first thing to do? You would probably jump out of the car and grab the kid, right?
Well, yeah.
Or be like, oh, my God, what are you doing? Where's your parents?
I'd pull over.
You'd pull over. Would you follow the kid for the length of 6 football fields by a dangerous highway and not intervene in the least?
No.
Try to stop the child or pick the child up, put it in your car?
Do I answer honestly? I mean, people are listening. No, I'm going to grab the child.
Heather's like, just look the other way and drive past the little dirty kid. And so there's another point on the 600 yards in my mind when I first heard this. So she sees a toddler, okay, and it catches her attention. She calls 911. She's following the child for 600 yards. Like you said, that's a very long ways. I mean, look at one football field and times 6. That's a very long ways. If I was a math guy, I could tell you how much of a mile that is. That's a long ways. Okay, no one else sees it. No one else reports it. Odd. And you've traveled a length of 6 football fields behind this kid, and now you've pulled over and you want to get the kid, safely. Then a man comes out of the woods. So this is the best plan I've ever seen, using a child as bait, right? So he set it up 600 yards up the road. You followed the kid down to where he's waiting in the woods, right? And now he gets the chance to jump out on. He knew that you would follow the kid. So
absolutely. Well,
doesn't
Dylan,
make
I think the
sense.
part of the story, I mean, I'm sure more details are going to come out here in the next couple of weeks. Her family has stood by her. They do believe she was abducted. Her boyfriend has asked social media and, folks out there not to bully her.
Okay.
Because we don't understand the full extent of what she's been through. I think my biggest concern about this is we know that a lot of these kidnapping, abduction, missing persons cases, as well as crime cases, people of color, especially women of color, do not get the kind of attention that they deserve, that should be warranted by our media. And so a lot of folks are discussing, how is this going to affect how the news covers these cases, these persons of color, missing persons cases.
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the biggest points in this case, honestly.
Because really, I feel like it's kind of hurting.
Yes.
It's hurting the cause.
If it turns out that it's not being truthful and something else, so she was papini. She was being a papini.
She was papinied.
Then that exactly what you said is going to happen. People's, and I think in her mind, possibly, if this was her plan to run away from her life or whatever, steal money, whatever, she maybe thought it wouldn't get any coverage because this is so typical in the true crime and in the national media at large that a woman of color, black, indigenous, whatever, does not get the attention that other cases get. But unfortunately for her, this one, for whatever reason, blew up, went viral. It always comes back to what you pointed out in the Gabby case. It has the elements to make it sensational, right? You got a toddler wandering down the
yes.
road. You got, allegedly a woman getting kidnapped during mid-call to someone, right? And, I mean, it just has those sensational elements. And this is what, it takes for the media to latch on. And you never can create it. You never know what's going to be that perfect mix, right? It's got to be a slow news day. It could be anything.
Right.
And unfortunately for her, just imagine if she is lying. Next thing she knows, this shit's everywhere. It's on Good Morning America. Everybody's talking about it. TikTok videos getting, hundreds of thousands, millions of views. I bet she was like, oh, shit.
Well, if she's being dishonest, yeah. But, I also bring up the point that, and then we're going to move along, that, if she did do this, I would wonder about her mental state.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
that's not something.
This is very abnormal.
Well, yeah. If you want to go to Nashville, who's stopping you from going to Nashville?
A kidnapping.
Yeah, just go to Nashville. Shit, you're in a car on the interstate. Just follow the signs.
Okay, Dylan's solution. Just if you want to go to Nashville, just
go.
Go. You don't have to fake.
I don't have to fake my own death so I can drive, to Nashville.
Well, I have to. Otherwise, all of you fuckers that live in my house, you and my kids are going to
Well,
want to go.
you're not leaving me here with them damn kids.
No, I'm leaving you with them. No, I'm telling you.
I will search you high and low.
This is my plan.
Look, short women don't usually get this coverage in true crime on TV, but this story's going to blow up.
Okay.
Poor
and I'm not that short. Are you ready to get into today's case? Dylan, this is a story that is going to bring up a lot of discussions.
Okay.
And while we're discussing and analyzing and giving our perspectives, I feel like folks out there, listeners, are definitely going to form their own opinions, and they might even yell at the podcast while they're listening, like, that's not right.
Okay.
But again, I think it's going to spark some discussions because we're going to be dealing with some pretty intense topics today.
Okay, I'm actually totally in the dark as some.
And I am going to give a trigger warning. This case is about a child killer. I don't go into great detail.
Okay.
I will give you that much. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the actual crime. It's not going to be too gory, but it is an important story to get out there.
And I think the killer should be killed. Everyone knows that.
Well, Stanton is located in Powell County, eastern Kentucky. It was once a booming logging town with a main railroad that has since been removed. It is considered one of the most scenic areas of Kentucky, nestled in the Appalachian Mountains.
The Appalachian Mountains always make everything better.
They make everything's nestled in the Appalachians and the Blue Ridge.
I've been nestled in the Appalachian Mountains before.
Yeah, I'm nestled right now. It is the beginning of the 46-mile Red River Gorge scenic byway that cuts through the Daniel Boone National Forest. Visitors to the area enjoy the historic single-lane Nada Tunnel, which provides access to the Red River Gorge. And this tunnel is pretty cool, Dylan. It's a piece of history. It's about 12 feet wide, 13 feet high, and 900 feet long. It's not the easiest to drive through, but visitors can go through this rugged tunnel.
Well, yeah.
That was once a locomotive tunnel.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
You can drive through it if you're going out to the scenic Red River Gorge.
I would have to try it. I mean, that's so cool driving through a train tunnel.
Oh,
basically.
It looks super cool. Originally built by the Dana Lumber Company, its original purpose was for locomotives to transport timber to the nearby sawmill in Clay City. It is also reportedly haunted, with visitors spotting green orbs, moaning, and stories of people who've died climbing the cliff face, or a story of a man who thought a stick of dynamite by the fire while they were building the tunnel.
I've worked with. See, I'm glad I didn't work with dynamite because I've worked with people that is that damn goofy right there. Talking about, hold on one second, let's heat this dynamite up before we use it.
My aunt, she's no longer with us. Her husband, so my uncle Travis, he was a dynamite expert.
Yeah.
And worked with this construction company doing demolition work, but he would travel a lot, and so he would go and spend months at a time out in Colorado and would help build these ski resorts, and they would be blowing up sides of mountains and shit. Yeah. Made a lot of money, but very dangerous job.
Very dangerous, but
And
super cool.
And rarely at home.
It's
you
got to
know?
be high on the list of badass jobs.
Right?
Being a demolition man.
Yeah, no, I always thought it was super cool.
Bro, I'm an explosives expert. Would you
Yeah.
trust me with explosives?
No.
I would be dead.
You're one of the last people I would trust with explosives. Like you and my daughter are like two people I probably would not trust with
Hey,
explosives.
look, I'm 2 beers in. They wouldn't even let me hold a Roman candle, y'all.
Look.
I mean, damn.
Yeah, I saw how you act. Yeah.
I was reliving my childhood. We used to shoot them at each other. It doesn't matter that it's a phosphorus damn ball of flame hotter than the
yeah,
sun.
But, well, you don't shoot it at your wife, Dylan.
No.
He's like, hey, y'all, look at this. Woo!
Boom, went right over her head. I wasn't aiming low enough.
Stop with the short jokes. Okay.
I will shortly. Okay, that's the last one.
Okay, you want me to make fun of your big ass head?
Yeah.
Dylan couldn't even find a fucking hat at the flea market yesterday
oh,
to fit his
wow.
big ass head. He was trying to find like a sun hat because, you know, now he'd be working outside and shit. Couldn't even find a sun hat. They were all too small for that big fucking melon
And
head
look,
of yours.
It's just, I didn't know he was going to get like that real because that's a true story. And
It's like a damn 80-pound candy roaster.
All
sitting
the
on your
vendors-
shoulders.
an 80-pound candy roaster. Oh, damn. All the vendors insisted that the hats were universal, one size fit all. And I would put it on my head and it looked like I was wearing like Woody's hat from a Woody doll, right? That's what it looked like on my big head. It wouldn't even go over the crown.
No, it looked like you had a Barbie hat
Yeah.
perched atop of your head,
It did.
of your big head. Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All
I'm
right.
short, but you got a big head.
It's true.
December 5th, 1978 started out like any other day for the Ice family. The children had gone to school like normal and they returned home. Mrs. Dana Ice took her sons to practice for a Christmas play, which I'm assuming was at a church and lasted until around 6 p.m. Afterwards, Dana dropped her 15-year-old son Todd at home, telling him that he needed to finish some chores while she took her younger son Scott to a ball game. Realizing the weather was about to turn nasty, Mrs. Ice decided against taking her son to the ball game. Instead, she popped off at a donut shop for treats. Then she dropped her son Scott off at their trailer, asking him to assist his brother Todd with the chores while she ran some more errands.
Seems like a normal day,
Right? Typical evening. Mrs. Ice explained that the errand would only take a few minutes and she promised to return soon. But when Dana Ice called her home a short time later to check on the boys, her youngest son Scott informed her that Todd was missing.
What the hell?
He was nowhere to be found. Mrs. Ice was concerned and returned home immediately, like any parent would. And of course, this is 1978, so no cell phones,
No.
only landlines. If you need to get in touch with someone and they don't pick up the phone, you know, you're driving around looking for them,
Yeah,
calling
literally.
hospitals.
Yeah, it's the
I mean-
cliche, call hospitals, police stations, and morgues, and then go search ditches, go the drive where they might be walking, call friends, family, see if anyone's seen them. But it's certainly a lot more complicated to get in touch with someone back then.
At first, Dana and Scott thought Todd might be outside, wandering around. They lived in a very rural area. It was actually off a service road that was adjoining Kentucky 15. So not a lot of houses. They really only had the closest neighbors were across the street, who also resided in a trailer, and that was the Knox family. But the rest of the area, fairly rural. If you can't get the neighbors across the way, it's probably going to take you a minute to find some folks down the road.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I think my phone just made a little noise here. Now, after searching around their property for Todd, Dana Ice grew concerned, and she called a friend, Anna Benningfield, to ask if she could come over and help with the search and also bring a flashlight. Because by now, it's starting to get dark outside again. We're in winter, gets darker earlier, running out of daylight.
Yeah, and just we've said this before. Every time we talk about this type of story, that I would instantly be. At first, you're just kind of a little bit worried, and then you get scared, and then you get mad. Or I'm sorry, you're worried, then you're mad. Like, where the hell are they? What are they doing? And then you're scared. And I can only imagine how a parent would feel in this situation.
Anna brought along Jana Benningfield and a 20-year-old named Raymond Elam to aid in the search. Soon after the party began looking for Todd, they found him standing in the middle of a bridge near their house.
What the hell?
So one of those bridges, like a road bridge, and he's just sort of standing in the middle of it. Well, Mrs. Ice, very concerned, ran to her son and asked him where he had been. Todd told her that a man with a beard had been holding him at gunpoint in the woods. He explained that he had heard the group calling his name, but he was too scared to respond.
Oh, God.
So, bearded man in the woods holding you at gunpoint.
Jeez. And so at this point, as a parent, what would you think?
I would
you be over
terrified.
Yeah, because now you've got that relief of seeing your child okay, unharmed, as far as you can tell. But then you hear this harrowing story.
The Ices, along with their friends, returned to their trailer home, where Dana insisted she report the incident to the sheriff's department. Now, while she's calling for help, Scott went over to the Knox trailer to warn the neighbors about the bearded man. He knew the 7-year-old Donna, who lived there, along with her mother Sheila, were likely home alone because Mr. Sylvester Knox, also known as Syl.
Sylvester Knox?
Yes.
Awesome name.
So he goes by Syl. That Syl was working, and from what I gathered, Dylan, I didn't get an exact picture of, his job, but it sounds like he worked a lot of nights, so I'm not sure if he just strictly worked night shifts or maybe he did a swing shift time of job, but there were it seemed like there were a lot of evenings when he wasn't home.
Right.
Right.
So he's expecting just mom and the daughter.
And the little girl, yeah.
Because that's typical.
So Scott pounded on the Knox trailer door, but no one answered, so he returned home. That's when Raymond Elam went to warn Sheila himself. After knocking on the door, he could hear a faint sound, but he didn't know what exactly was going on. So he ran back to the Ice residence where they waited for the sheriffs. And Mrs. Ice told the group they needed to turn off all the lights so it looked like no one was at home because they were worried that the bearded man might enter the home and possibly kill them all.
Yeah, so their main concern, obviously, is this scary stranger.
Yes.
Who could still be in the area.
Yes.
They have no idea of his intentions. They don't know what's happened. And they're just worried. So all they're trying to do is warn everyone inside, which is the neighbors, and trying to circle the wagons, right?
Yes.
Everyone be careful.
Cephas Allen, which, by the way, Cephas is a great fucking name.
Dude, Kentucky's bringing it.
Yeah, Cephas Allen, a deputy with the sheriff's office, arrived at this scene. And after speaking to the Ice family, he went over to the Knox residence just to make sure they were okay. Allen entered the trailer, and what he found was shocking.
Oh, my God.
7-year-old Donna was deceased, lying on the bathroom floor. Her mother, Sheila, was tied to the bed, bleeding and fading in and out of consciousness. Sheila was able to tell Allen that the culprit was known to her. In fact, the attacker had been 15-year-old Todd Ice, who lived across the street.
Oh, my God.
And this story took a turn, didn't it, Dylan?
Well, I was just about to say, oh, my God, the bearded man has done something, has harmed this family. And it's Scott.
Todd.
Todd, the 15-year-old.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
So after calling for help, Officer Allen returned to the Ice home and told Dana Ice, quote, "The lady in the trailer says Todd Ice was the one that done this." Although Allen said nothing about a murder, Todd Ice immediately grew defensive and started shouting, quote, "I didn't kill anyone."
Oh, shit. There you go.
While Todd was proclaiming his lack of involvement, Officer Allen noted bloodstains on Todd's jeans, as well as blood spatter on his boots and jacket. Allen arrested Todd Ice. Todd Ice was a quiet honor student who was interested in entomology, not exactly the vicious killer one would peg for such a heinous crime. And if you don't know entomology, that is the study of bugs and insects.
I was going to say.
He collected bugs. He was really into science, interested in bugs.
And he loved shadow boxes.
He did.
To display them bugs.
He was a member of his church. He, was an active member at church. He was a church camp counselor and a member of the 4-H club. Now, Dylan, it has been reported by some sources, and I'm not going to say they're exactly credible. So, again, I'm just saying I'm not 100% certain on this because they're from, just different blogs and websites. But I have read that Mrs. Ice was almost religious, fanatic.
Oh, really?
Yes. And really pressed her boys to, go to church, be in church, and was almost described as like the Piper Laurie character from Carrie when it
I was
comes
gonna
to her
say,
boys.
they're all
Now,
gonna
I
laugh
don't
at
know
you.
if that's been exaggerated, if they were just active in their church, but some out there have tried to paint her as she was like a religious fanatic, which was very stressful for her children.
So what you're telling me is Todd used his mom powers to kill
No,
the neighbors
I did not
across.
say-
You said it was just like Carrie.
I said not. I said the Piper Laurie character. He does not have telekinesis. Dylan, quit fucking around.
I'm sorry.
You are fired. I am looking for a
Look.
new host. Who would like to replace Dylan? Send me your resume, mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
If anyone has any issue with anything I've done or said today, please contact Kathleen and Scott because they are responsible, our new patrons. They're responsible for everything I did today.
Don't blame them.
Oh, yeah.
Don't blame them. Now, the autopsy report would paint a horrific picture of Donna Knox's last moments. And we have to think about, this is a 7-year-old little girl, Dylan.
I mean, I'm being goofy, but in the back part of my brain, as I'm getting this information, my soul's dying. It's just terrible, and I can imagine as a cop or neighbors or anything, you think you have a situation with Todd and the bearded man, and then you realize, I mean, I can't imagine where mom's headspace is because it's went from worried I found my son, but there still might be some menacing stranger out there to your son's murdered people across the street, a 7-year-old. And attacked the mother and tried to kill her as well. I mean, I don't even know how you deal with all that in such a short time frame.
Well, according to the deputy coroner, Carl Walls, Donna was beaten so badly that she had 4 distinct indentions in her forehead.
Jesus,
A little girl. Who could do this to such a small child?
And that's monstrous violence right there.
When Sheila Knox awoke in the hospital, she had no idea of her daughter's fate. Left for dead, Sheila had managed to tell an officer who had attacked them before slipping away again. Waking up in the hospital is when Sheila learned that her 7-year-old daughter Donna had been beaten and her throat cut by the assailant.
My God.
That she knows as Todd Ice. Sheila described to the officers the events of the evening. The mother and daughter had gone to the laundromat, and when they returned home, they caught Todd Ice in the act of burglarizing their trailer. And it wasn't the first time someone had broken into their home. Over the last couple of years, someone, and they suspected it was Todd Ice all along, had entered into the home when no one was there. And from what I could gather, Dylan, it seemed that Sheila Knox had confronted the Ice family about the break-ins, but Todd had denied involvement.
So they know someone's been messing around their property in some form or fashion, be it things moved, things gone, and they suspected because you just described a very rural setting, very few people around. So if that happens, I don't blame them for maybe they saw Todd around their house or leaving their yard.
Yeah, and it seems like maybe Sheila had kind of confronted him at some point, and Todd was a little pissed off too.
Right.
And, about the accusations, even though he was the one doing it. Anywho, so as Sheila and Donna walk in on Todd, she tells him, you need to leave. And when he doesn't, Sheila tries to run away from him, but he wields a knife, stabbing her in the back. After knocking her to the ground, Todd drags Sheila to the bedroom where he places her on the bed and he ties her up.
See, I mean, I don't get, that's what I don't get. Just be like, yeah, I'm a dumbass kid. I broke in your house. That's not right. And deal with it, deal with I'm sorry. That was wrong. Call the police. I'll do whatever I got to do. But the fact that it escalates so very quickly to this type of, I don't even know how to describe it. Just intense violence. I mean, now you went from some bullshit dumbass kid thing, right? I mean, kind of, burglary's I think breaking into someone's home's a very big deal. Even if you're just messing around or fooling around. I think I think you cross a line.
It's violating.
It's very violating to
the thought of anybody walking around my home, I mean, just touching
going
my things,
through my things, yeah,
rummaging,
it's not okay.
Around,
it's a big deal.
It really is an unsettling feeling.
But,
and I've spoken to folks who've had their homes burglarized, even your car broken into. It is a violation.
And they carry
it
it with
makes you
them.
feel very unsafe,
yes,
unsettled, and your home is your sanctuary. It is the one place where we are supposed to feel safe.
Yes.
right?
And as bad as that is, burgling, Jesus Lord. I mean, turning this type of violence and bringing it into there, it's a whole nother ballgame.
Now, while Todd has Sheila tied to the bed, she's telling him, quote, please go home. You haven't hurt me that bad. Like, this will be okay. We won't make a big deal out of it.
Just go home, leave me be.
She's pleading with him.
Jesus.
During this time, Todd locates a lead pipe in the bedroom, which he beats Sheila with. And then he finds the family's rifle and continues to hit her with the rifle as well.
This is very violent.
Very violent.
From a 15-year-old.
While the woman is bleeding, Todd holds them in the house for around 2 hours, and little Donna is trying to care for her mother the whole time. She fetches a washcloth to clean up the blood from her mother's face, and she's like tending to her mom. This sweet little girl is having to witness this horrible beating of her mother by the neighbor.
And then be held
And
hostage.
she's trying to help her mom. I mean, this is just really, it pulled at my heartstrings, Dylan. It's so sad. Because I remember, like, being a little girl and, you know, my mom getting hurt and me trying to, like, you know, do the best I could to, like, nurse her, even though I was a kid, you know.
Right.
I mean, just heartbreaking. Todd then takes a knife and cuts Sheila's throat, leaving her to die. When this happens, Donna runs to the bathroom to hide, but Todd follows her and then cruelly attacks the little girl until she's dead. Fucking monster.
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
1 week after the murder, on December 12th, Todd is seen by Dr. Maria Pinho, who performs a psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Pinho observed Todd and said he was like a walking time bomb. In a 5-page report she wrote, she said that Ice had a great deal of anger, anxiety, and confusion, which has been controlled but not dealt with. She saw it as just a matter of time before the control was gone, and that Todd would, quote, explode. His anger would emerge, and there would be no way to contain it. She also noted it was unusual when she asked him what he regretted most in life. He said it was giving up basketball.
Yeah. Not this insane thing I've done.
Usually, the doctor noted, most young people respond with something mischievous or some kind of delinquent behavior that they've done, you know, that was disappointing to their parents, a time they hurt someone.
Right.
Something that they truly felt remorse about. And he's talking about, well, I guess I shouldn't have stopped playing basketball.
Well, hey, there's a clue right there that he doesn't. Maybe he's not a remorseful. He doesn't feel remorse.
Well, the basketball answer was unusual. So Dr. Pinho was among 4 professionals who would evaluate Todd Ice. Among them, terms like paranoid psychosis, schizophrenic, and psychotic break were thrown around in an attempt to explain why a 15-year-old would commit a crime like this.
Well, yeah, it's one of those instances where a jury's their brain's not going to want to allow them to think that a 15-year-old, which most of us view as a kid still, right, is capable of this type of violence, right? You don't want to admit that to yourself because it almost like, I don't know, it's like you'd never think that someone that young could do something so violent.
Exactly. I think people are just looking for...
he's got to be crazy, or he's got to be a mental break, or maybe mentally some kind of mental episode happening because this is so abnormal, right?
When the news broke about the murder of Donna Knox, along with the attack on her mother, residents were infuriated, yet horrified. How could a minor commit such a violent act? Security surrounding Ice was extra tight because enraged folks of Powell County demanded justice. They were concerned that people would break into the jail and lynch this kid.
Oh my gosh.
This 15-year-old.
Well, yeah.
Because people were mad. They didn't understand it. They were fuming.
Well, when you have a 7-year-old murdered like this, a mother and a small child, that's the type of thing that gets people going. You know what I mean?
Only 8 days after the murder, it was said that the Ice home was torched to the ground and the family was driven out of town at gunpoint by an angry mob.
What the hell? Damn, see this right here? This that mountain justice. It's real.
This is the, I think, what Jason Aldean means by try that in a small town.
When you get
people's up in arms about that song, but I'm like, this is the kind of thing we're talking about.
Well, let's say for the politics of that song and all, but this is literally getting run out of a town on a rail.
Yeah.
When they would, and back in the day, they would tie you to a stake and carry you out of town, like hog tied to a stake. This is run out of town on a rail. I mean, you are going to leave or we're going to kill you.
Well, people in small towns and these rural communities, I mean, this is a very, very, very small town, Stanton. And these are people who know each other. They know your kids. They know your grandma. They know who your daddy was.
Yes.
And this shit just don't play. And so for a resident to brutally murder a 7-year-old and try to kill her mother, yeah, people were not okay with this.
Well, and honestly, I think that's one of the values that could have led to this behavior on Todd's part, as far as when I said, hey, it was just you broke in her house, you're being a dumbass, eat your pie, take responsibility. But in these small communities, that's a really fucking big deal to be breaking in someone's house, messing with their property. And so that might have been what he was worried about, people finding out he's doing this thing, this type of thing.
A Kentucky state police officer named Babe Howard would later testify that, quote, there's really high sentiment in this case. Normally, people will control themselves to the point there's no harm done. But in this particular case, I wouldn't say that for a fact. Law enforcement warned about the bad situation and said people couldn't really imagine what was happening. And they warned what would happen if ICE were allowed back in Powell County. I mean, even law enforcement's like, you don't know how bad it is.
Holy
and if
cow.
he comes back here,
we can't control it.
We cannot guarantee that this young man will be safe.
Okay. Now, I feel for, if it's true what he's done, which it seems true to me, because when you got the victim clinging to life and they either draw initials in blood on the wall or have a last statement before they slip into a coma, this is who attacked me, that carries a lot of weight. You're right. I mean, it's hard to disbelieve someone who's laying there almost dead beside, in the house with their dead daughter, that they're going to lie. So that really carries a lot of weight. But, shit, I lost my point.
Okay.
Man, I'm Kamala Harrison today. I'm saying a lot of words.
But none of it makes sense.
None of it. I'm not really saying anything. And I apologize to everyone because I am invested in this story and I'm trying not to mess it up.
Yeah, I also apologize to people out there who, think she's brilliant. I'm sorry for you. Now, a judge granted the defense's request.
Oh, Kamala? Yes, I'm sorry for if people think that. I'm sorry.
They do.
Well, let's just stay away from
They'll die on that hill. It's crazy.
Well, I haven't been to Europe either. Let's keep moving.
She just laughs maniacally at everything.
Can we say right quick, did we always talk about her AI? She said it's 2 letters.
Okay, look, bro. I read this quote, a direct quote from her the other day where somebody asked her about AI technology, and the quote was, well, first of all, AI is 2 letters.
It is. That's true. And there really wasn't a second
And there really wasn't a second of all.
Oh, this is not about politics, people. This is about Kamala Harris as an idiot.
Look, I hate them all, okay?
Yes,
I'm no
them
longer tied to any
Our
political.
government is completely dysfunctional.
They're all fucking
it's
trash.
Broken.
And if you don't see that, again, I'm sorry for you because it's true. They're trash.
No, but anywho. But AI is 2 letters, Heather.
It's a big fucking dumpster fire.
Okay.
They're all full of shit. I just make fun of everybody at this point. Appalachian anarchist. Woo! A judge granted the defense's request to move the trial to a different venue, but it only was moved to Wolfe County. Todd Ice's trial began in September of 1980. Now, the lead prosecutor began opening statements discussing how Donna's young life had been taken abruptly, along with a photo of the little girl wearing a nightgown in bed, and she's holding a doll. So a very sweet, heartwarming photo of this little girl.
My heart breaks.
Is being shown in the opening statements. Next, the prosecutor decided to basically juxtaposition another photo next to this one of the child lying on a coroner's table.
Oh my God, that's
dead.
powerful.
Of course, the images were designed to evoke emotion from the jurors, and it worked, Dylan. The jurors' reactions seemed to range from cringe to rage. Now, according to the prosecutor, the facts of the case were clear.
I would have to agree. It seems like a slam dunk to me.
Yet the defense argued that Donna was not killed by their client, but rather a friend of Todd Ice. His name was Norvin Mayberry, and yes, that's his real name.
Look,
What a great name.
Kentucky,
One.
it has the best names.
Norvin Mayberry.
That is going to be my moniker now. I'm Norvin Mayberry.
It's a good name. Now, Mayberry had confessed to the murder several times, but he later recanted and said he had been with his mother the entire night of this incident. Mayberry had been a patient at the Northern Kentucky Treatment Center when some of the confessions had been made. So at the time, he was in a drug rehab program and was like detoxing and withdrawing from drugs and alcohol.
Okay.
Mayberry had a history of drug and alcohol addiction. Yet Mayberry and his mother willingly submitted to polygraph exams, which were considered truthful.
So they basically passed the polygraph.
Yes.
Okay.
Yet the defense tried to keep the information out of court.
About the polygraph.
That's about Mayberry and the polygraph. But wanted to focus on that he was their suspect, but didn't want this other information brought to light.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's straightforward defense playbook right there. You introduce another possibility. All you need is that one juror to have reasonable doubt. So that, I mean, you say, in this case, I think they would go with he was also mentally unstable. I mean, or having a mental break. That'd be about all you can say in this case, really, is defense.
Mayberry told detectives at a later time that he had made this confession to a crime he didn't commit in order to increase his street cred among inmates and make the staff scared of him.
Yeah, that's
this drug, this court-ordered drug program.
It's a good plan, dude. Confess to killing a 7-year-old brutally. That's gonna help you out.
Those who knew Mayberry said he was, quote, a windbag, often bragging about wild stories that people knew were not true. And they didn't believe he'd been present or involved in Donna's murder. So this guy was kind of known for making these, salacious claims. Yes. And besides, the prosecutors retorted Sheila Knox was a witness to the crime and had survived. She was very much alive when she pointed to Todd Ice as her attacker. She was his neighbor and had known him for years. He was easy for Sheila to identify. Again, she knows him well. This is not a mistaken identity.
No.
She knows this is the guy that was in her house, and this is the person who attacked her and killed her child.
Yeah, and I'm going to assume your answer to that as a defense attorney is, hey, this poor woman was brutally attacked.
She's in the house being held hostage for 2 hours. At no point is there a second party in the house.
Yeah, but as a defense, you could say that she's not clear on the details. She was attacked brutally. She's had head trauma possibly. Is she remembering correctly? Did she just forget that this other person was, I mean, that's the only way you can really refute an almost dead witness identifying your client.
Even so, the defense seemed to drive home their theory that Todd was insane at the time of the crime, and the real killer was Norvin Mayberry. This tactic hopefully would at least plant some seeds of doubt in the jury's minds. If this worked, he could be found not guilty by reason of insanity. Yet, only after 30 minutes did the jury return a guilty verdict. Todd Ice was guilty in the first-degree murder of Donna Knox. A few days later, the judge handed down a sentence of death to 16-year-old Todd Ice. He would now be the youngest person on death row in the United States.
How do you feel about that?
Well, again, I think it's a big question that a lot of folks are going to have opinions about.
No, it is, but it's simple for me. And you get y'all. It's also a lot of discussion around the age of a perpetrator. Oftentimes, what was done to that poor little girl and her mom was pure evil. Violence.
I think it's an adult crime.
Yes.
He was aware of right and wrong, or he wouldn't have tried to cover his tracks.
He's not 8 years old. Yes.
He was very aware of what he was doing.
He made up a whole story.
And I believe he should be tried as an adult.
I agree. I'm sorry. When the crime gets past a certain point of brutality, and when you're just leaning into it, there's not any reluctance there, obvious. I'm sorry. You did an adult thing.
In 2 hours' time, he had ample opportunity to leave the home.
She's begging him, look, just walk away.
She's asking him.
I won't tell anybody.
Leave. Yeah.
And I think he deserves that. I'm sorry. I do. I know a lot of people have strong feelings around, especially youthful offenders, but I'm sorry that I think that he deserves to die for what he did to. I'm sorry. I don't care if you're 15 or not. I think that is so brutal and so violent and so fucking evil that you don't deserve to be around humans anymore. And that's the way I feel about it.
Well, I agree.
As long as he doesn't have significant cognitive disabilities or anything that would stop him from knowing right or wrong. And I think he's proved, just like you pointed out, that he knew exactly what was happening. Anytime, when you have people that have, significant mental breaks, schizophrenic episode or anything like that, oftentimes they'll come to at the scene and call the fucking police and just go out front and sit. Like, oh my God, what have I done? And these are true mental breaks from reality where they really don't know what's happened. Very interesting documentary about that, about a mental hospital, and talking in depth to some of these people, these schizophrenics who've been treated. And it's very sad because they did this brutal thing, but they truly didn't want to and didn't mean to and didn't know they did it. But but anytime you see an effort to cover their tracks, I feel like that is a very good indicator that you have not truly broke from reality and you know what's going on and you knew right from wrong when you did that.
Yeah, I even went to the lengths of making up a story about this bearded man.
And going and hiding until they found him.
Yeah, I mean, all of this to me is like, he
It's
was
too much.
aware of what he did.
I agree.
He knows what he did was wrong and he's trying to cover it up. Now, 3 years later, the Kentucky Supreme Court overruled Ice's conviction, citing various errors committed by the prosecution and trial judge. In 1986, Todd was granted a second trial. During the second trial, Ice's attorneys, they were actually a married couple, Kevin McNally and his wife Gail Robinson, they were able to establish a pattern of mental illness within the Ice family and show that Todd was in a state of extreme emotional disturbance when he killed Donna and attacked Sheila. The manslaughter conviction was a victory for Todd Ice, and the maximum sentence he would receive was 20 years.
So that was the result of the second trial.
Yep. McNally and Robinson asked that Ice be placed in a psychiatric treatment facility. Yet 13,000 signatures on a Powell County petition showed residents wanted justice for Donna's death. Though he had served time, the parole board decided not to release Todd Ice. He would serve the rest of the sentence behind bars. This petition weighed a lot on this.
So he would serve all of the 20 years that we know he won't do quite 20 years or whatever, but
yeah, because he does have time served already at this point.
But in this situation, it could have ended up where like basically he's released at 18 or 21 instead of serving any significant amount of the 20 years.
Well, and his attorneys wanted him to serve a sentence out in a mental treatment facility, and they were like, nope, he's going to serve this out in prison. Now, the husband and wife lawyer team kept in close contact with Todd Ice over the next couple of years. It has been reported that they often took their young son to visit Ice in prison, and that Ice taught the child how to play chess. He displayed kindness toward the little boy and appeared almost gentle with the child.
Good, cool. Well, it's too bad he murdered the shit out of that 7-year-old.
So for a period, they're thinking like, okay, his mental illness is in remission.
He's responding to treatment.
Like he's getting better. He's doing well. We have our son around him. He's working great with our child. He's not a threat. But then he suddenly made a turn for the worst. Ice seemed to become overwhelmed with darkness. He was depressed. He stopped showering, and his cell became filthy. At one point, he slashed his arm with a razor blade, even going as far as setting his cell on fire. His mental health, now in serious decline, it seemed like Todd could no longer manage it. Because before, he's been managing this on his own. He's not getting the proper treatment he needs in prison. He's not seeing a counselor. He's just sort of been winging it. And then it's come to a head. By 1990, Todd was sending threatening letters to his attorneys, telling them he would torture and kill them if necessary.
Okay.
In one of the letters he wrote to Robinson, he said, quote, "I will kill without regret again if the circumstances merit it." One of the most disturbing lines in the letter said, quote, "You do not understand what I have to do to become someone who does not cut the throats of little girls."
And it sounds like Todd definitely has some shit he's dealing with. But I would argue a lot of us have stuff we're dealing with on various levels, and we still refrain from this type of violence. I'm sorry. Short of a complete mental break from reality to where you truly have no idea and you wake up out of a fugue state, a fog later and then see the result of your actions, I'm sorry. I think you're responsible for it. Short of that.
His attorneys reluctantly turned over the letters to the parole board, hoping they would see how dangerous it would be to release Ice back to the public. So his own attorneys have turned on him at this point.
Well, that's why I don't understand. This doesn't make me think, hey, this guy really is, not okay, in his head, because that's like the dumbest thing to do, to take your only advocates, your lawyers who are fighting for you. I mean, even willing to their willingness to bring their small child around this guy, I think is kind of greasy. I think it's kind of weird. I wouldn't do it.
Well, I wouldn't do it either.
I wouldn't do it. And you're also using your kid like a prop, in my opinion.
On March 11th of 1994, there was a mental inquest trial held in Louisville to determine whether Ice was a danger to himself or others. For some, including Dr. Nolker, Ice was just as dangerous as he had been when he cut Donna's throat 16 years earlier. Yet a psychiatric social worker named Gail Johnson thought Ice was not psychotic and that it was cruel to keep him locked in a mental hospital against his will. Yet a jury of 6 would be left to decide Todd's fate, not professionals.
Cruel.
His previous defense team wanted him to receive mental health treatment. And at this point, they're concerned about him to the point they're turning over these letters and they're pleading, please put him in mental health. He needs help.
Well, I think he needs proper professional treatment. And you're not going to get that in a prison setting.
Well, ICE's new defense team scoffed at the suggestion, believing those ideas were, quote, stale, irrelevant, and highly prejudicial. The new lawyers went to great lengths to prove their client was not insane. So I'm not really understand what this tactic is. But for the next 360 days, Ice was committed to a mental hospital. Yet due to the fact that Ice had been a model patient, Kentucky would not allow further involuntary commitment. It's written, I guess, in Kentucky, in these laws or whatever, that if the patient was showing progress, which the doctors said he was, that they would eventually have to release him.
Oh.
If he was showing progress or he seemed to be treated.
Now,
okay.
I want to clarify. I think he deserved a death sentence for what he did, and I think he should have been put to death. Okay? But if that, in his second trial, obviously he got the manslaughter charge and then death's off the table, if this guy's going to be housed and kept up by the state and he's having obvious mental stuff, he should get treatment. I know that might sound like a kind of a, opposite ideals or whatever, or conflicting ideals. But yeah, if the guy's not been put to death and he's going to continue to be in prison, then he should get mental health treatment for everyone else's sake. And you know what I mean?
Well, it was just a matter of time before Todd was released.
Oh, Jesus.
To many residents in eastern Kentucky, it was nearly unthinkable that a child killer like Todd Ice would be allowed to go free. For some, justice was denied when he was allowed to escape the electric chair. The Knox family were among those who felt Donna didn't get justice. Now, his impending release was a slap in the face to nearly everyone in the community. One of the doctors told a newspaper, the Courier-Journal, quote, "The tragedy in this case of Todd Ice is that somebody else is going to die. We just don't know when or where."
How could you not have that opinion? Honestly.
In March of 1996, it was reported that Todd Ice was a free man. He was living in a halfway house in Covington, Kentucky, where he was able to roam the streets. No one informed the Covington police that a child killer was now living in their city because as a mental patient, he had certain rights under the law, including a right to privacy. Police Chief Bill Dorsey, he didn't like that idea, Dylan. He told 60 Minutes in an interview, quote, "People want to be safe. We have smoke detectors in our house. We have warning labels on the back of cigarettes and alcohol. And yet we hesitate to warn the public about the worst predator of all on this globe, a man."
I agree with him.
As you can imagine, there was a huge public outcry. People began angry calling their local politicians until many were routed up to the governor.
Look here, you
These
son
phone
bitch.
calls. Yeah. I mean, this was a big deal.
And if you think that with that, that kind of intense vigilante justice, and when they were literally run out of town, their house burnt down, which again, I feel for the family, not Todd, but this poor family's been drug into what Todd's done. That's not went away. That sentiment doesn't go away. It festers. And with his, the way the death sentence getting commuted and now him being released, that's only going to make it worse. So he's not going to be just go back home and act like everything's okay.
Well, because of all these threats and intense scrutiny, Ice was swiftly removed from that halfway house. On October 4th of 1996, Todd Ice was moved out of Kentucky, but his location was kept guarded. Mental Health and Mental Retardation Services Commissioner Elizabeth Wachtel raved about Todd Ice, saying, quote, "Ice is a success story for the mental health system," while his attorney Don Meyer wagged a finger at the public, claiming his client was driven away by a witch hunt. He said, quote, "Todd's case is a sad reminder of the ignorance and paranoia that can be generated in the public misconceptions surrounding people with mental illness." Yet Don Meyer was the same guy who was trying to strip the case of this idea that Todd was mentally ill.
Yeah.
He's saying this is not a mentally ill person, that he's not a problem, but yet he's turning around saying,
"Oh, this is how you treat the mentally ill."
so that doesn't make any
Dude,
sense.
that's mental
I'm just like,
gymnastics.
yeah, it totally is. Now, Todd Ice's release to the public reached the state Senate floor in 1996 when a lobbying group called the Family Foundation of Kentucky pushed for amendment changes to Bill 136. The bill related to privacy information for clients and patients of the state. Some leaders argued that citizens were not being protected from Todd Ice and that his privacy was not as important as protecting the community.
I gotta agree. I mean, I think I agree. I mean, it's tricky, man. This is off into a kind of a gray area. I think it's case by case, if you will. And in Todd's case, I honestly think he has issues, but I think he's hiding behind that. And I don't think he's fully accepting responsibility for what he did. And I think that's the main problem.
After being moved, Todd Ice appeared on 60 Minutes. During the interview, Ice said he knew the difference between right and wrong and would only possibly become a threat if he went off his medications. A treating doctor told the show that Todd was doing well, and though it was impossible to know if he would reoffend, the doctor felt Ice was relatively safe. Sheila Knox was also interviewed for the show. She said wherever Todd Ice was living, the community had a right to know about him. When asked if she was afraid for her life, knowing he was a free man, Sheila said, quote, "What else can Todd Ice do to me that he hasn't already done? He killed me 18 years ago when he killed Donna."
Damn. I mean,
some fucking strong words right there.
What can you say to that?
That is a statement. I mean, it gives me chills.
Yeah.
A little goosebumps.
No,
right
I mean,
now,
dude,
know?
hey, you got me. Yeah, she got me on that one. I mean, I just feel so much for her. The pain, the loss.
I do too.
Just knowing that the violence,
this poor family,
acted upon your child. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. And then on October 21st of 2010, Dean Ice announced that his son Todd had died on his birthday at the age of 47 from a heart attack. Ice had been living in Missouri at the time of his death, reportedly with his sister. His parents lived in Muncie, Indiana, but they would not allow Todd to live with them. There would be no further incidents involving Todd Ice, and he never harmed again. Without heavy doses of antipsychotic drugs, Todd was prone to hallucinations, paranoia, and delusions. It seemed that the psychiatric treatment had finally helped him regain control, which is what they should have given him from the get-go.
Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about his him not, the way it all went down. I don't know. It's hard to know exactly what you think about something like this.
After his death, the media reached out to Sheila Knox to ask for a comment about Todd's passing. He told reporters that he and Sheila were relieved to hear of Todd's passing.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not be? I mean, I think they get to have that feeling, and I think it's the way I would feel. I mean, honestly, I was probably about there hunting the guy once he was released.
Yeah, I mean, this was honestly a bit of a difficult case to research, Dylan, because I was relying on old newspaper articles and, court records, that kind of thing. There was a lot I would like to know more about Todd, and especially about his childhood, his background.
Right.
I tried my best to find out as much as I could. But it does seem from various reports and just reading through some of the blogs and people who knew him, lived in the same town, it does seem like they were incredibly poor. They lived in poverty. But I think a pretty big majority of that community was
right
working poor.
Yeah.
Well,
that certainly can't be the causation of this type
but,
of violence.
very poor family, religious, fanatic mom.
Right.
Right.
And Todd had the mental abilities like Carrie.
And yes, no, he did not. I mean, it's a very distressing story, and I'm sure it's very painful for the Knox family to have to live with this, the loss of their child, and in such a terrible way.
Yeah.
At the hands of a 15-year-old neighbor boy.
I mean,
also a kid.
See, I mean, there you are living, out in the sticks. And the only neighbor you got, a family near you, are the ones that hurt you. And that'd probably be before anything happened or they had any suspicions. That'd probably be the last person you suspected as being dangerous to you. Your only neighbors.
Now, from what I researched, the Knox family, soon after this happened, they moved into a new house.
You have to.
They had to move. And then I read a follow-up interview, months later, about the first Christmas in the new house without Donna and just how painful it was for them.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way around it.
And it was super sad. Super sad.
Man, I'll fight Todd. Even if he is mentally unstable. I'll fight him if he was alive.
You're mentally unstable.
I would fight him.
It's okay.
As some people say, I would fight him for charity.
If
we can arrange it, I'll fight his fucking ghost, dude. Like, for real. I'm here representing that little girl and her mama, dude.
You're going to fight the ghost?
And I don't know what's going to, I don't know how that's going to happen.
I just had a great idea, Dylan. You remember years ago when there were the bum fights?
Yeah.
Bum fights was a thing?
It was, yeah.
Okay. Ghost fights.
Ghost fights.
This is what you need to do, Dylan. Now, I'm trademarking this right now. I'm patenting this idea. Is that you put footage on YouTube or whatever of you fighting random ghosts. Like you could fight the ghost of Ernest Hemingway.
No, so
that would be a good fight.
I need a professional medium, a real medium to facilitate this, correct?
I can help you with that.
So we're going to seance them up. We're going to identify the ghost.
Yes.
Know that who I'm fighting.
Yeah.
I don't want to be fighting Genghis Khan when I think I'm kicking Hitler's ass. Okay.
Right. No.
So we're going to have verification, and then I'm going to fight him.
Yes.
For charity.
Yes.
Okay. Why do you want me to fight Ernest Hemingway though?
I just think he might.
I thought he just drank.
I think he might kick your ass.
You think Hemingway's got that? I bet.
Then you don't know much about Hemingway.
Was he a badass?
Kind of.
Was he like a survivalist hunting man or something?
He was a badass.
Was he a sportsman like Theodore Roosevelt?
He was a sportsman. Oh, yeah.
Ah.
He was known for African safaris.
Oh, so he went after big game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care. He might have wrote the great American novel, but I'm going to whoop his ass. I don't care.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I think Hemingway might take you out.
I used to go take my kids for at least 6 weeks straight. We went to karate.
I think
and I watched.
Okay,
a
we're
lot.
also. I feel like you should fight the ghost of John Wayne.
I don't know if I can fuck with the Duke. I do have questions about his theory of the Red Scare. He was kind of supportive of that, and I'm disappointed in him in that.
Okay.
The blackballing of other associates in Hollywood. John off camera was kind of a dick.
He was. Yeah.
He was certainly a man's man, but he was a chauvinist ass from what I can tell.
He totally was.
Okay. Yeah. No offense to anybody out there, because the dude, I get it. John Wayne.
People love him.
They love him. Partner.
My daddy, he would be very upset if I ever said anything negative about John Wayne.
He's not going to discuss real life John Wayne.
No.
Okay.
John Wayne, Clint Eastwood. Okay. Anybody who's in them old westerns, don't you talk about them. It'll be high noon for you, Dylan.
I gotta say, John Wayne really just him and that old gun belt Wade Stanton. He was a big man too. He was a big tall guy. No one did it better hardly.
No one does it better.
as the silver screen cowboy.
Okay. Well,
Oh.
yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. It's time to wrap the show up, Dylan. Thank you for sitting down with me today to discuss the case of Todd Ice.
Yeah. Poor little Donna.
I know.
Sheila. And Todd's no longer with us either. So, that's good.
If you have a case suggestion, you can email mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us online at www.mountainmurderspodcast.com,
And I'd
where
like to.
you can actually listen to our episodes live from the website.
It's true. And I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Scott and Kathleen. Thank you so much for your patronage.
Thank you. And we will be back in a couple of days with our midweek. And we've just dropped some new material over at patreon.com.
Yeah.
We covered a bonus episode on the murder of Eric Miller,
Oh, my
a
gosh.
case out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Kind of a wild story.
That is a wild story. And honestly, yeah, you got to get over there and check that out, folks. Patrons, you got to go get it. You got to make sure you listen. That was just a crazy story.
Okay, Dylan, I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.